Okay. So my name's Susan Daniels, and I saw that we had a gap on writing education here, so I developed a course, and this is the first time I'm teaching it. So before you all leave, I'll hand out my card. I would appreciate your feedback, and if there's anything that you want me to cover, any questions you have, or anything that you think I could do differently or better, please pass it on, because I will change the class as we go along, and I'd like this to be an interactive class, not just a talking head up here in front of a PowerPoint. So I will start with an overview about me and how I ended up here. I am, as Dr. Winters mentioned, I'm the editor and scientific writer here in the Heart and Vascular Center. I'm on the DICET team, which is the DeBakey Institute for Cardiovascular Education and Training. So I help with putting on the training conferences. I'm also managing editor of our journal, the Methodist DeBakey Cardiovascular Journal, and I've been doing that for about 2 years now. I have a PhD in biochemistry from across the street. I've spent all this time here in the Med Center. I was across the street at UT Health, and I also did a postdoc at Baylor College of Medicine, where I had a fellowship with the pediatric GI program over at Texas Children's as well. So I worked over there. And oddly enough, I have a bachelor's degree in journalism, so I'm an interesting hybrid, and my interest and passion is in communicating science. So that's why I'm here. And in a few minutes, I'll give you an overview of what the course is about, but I'd like to start with an interesting sentence. Is anyone familiar with this sentence? This is grammatically correct, and this is something I thought is very odd about the English language and kind of entertaining. You can have 8 buffaloes in a row, and this is a grammatically correct sentence. Now, it gives me a headache to diagram it, but basically this is using 3 different meanings for the word buffalo. Buffalo, the city in New York State, buffalo, the animal, and buffalo, the verb, meaning to fool or to trick. And so it can be diagrammed, but I'm not going to go through that with you because it will make your head hurt. But there's a great website called Grammar Girl that goes through this in depth and explains it. The reason I brought this up is we're trying to communicate medical cases and scientific research and knowledge, and we have a rather tricky language. And so the purpose of this class is to help you make the process of writing less painful, make it a little bit easier, help you improve your writing. I also, in every class, I'd like to bring up changes that are happening in the scholarly publishing field, things that could affect you as an author. There is a lot going on with open access and just the publishing process in general, and I'll be touching on those things as the class progresses. And also in every class, I'd like to give you a little chance to practice writing and editing. I'm not going to have time, and you're probably not interested in me teaching you grammar and detailed grammar exercises, but I'll try to give you little tips and tricks to make your writing better. The overall class is going to be, it'll be 8 sessions. Today we'll be talking about how to choose a topic that's worthy of publication, knowing how to target an appropriate journal, and also how to review the literature on a topic. And for that purpose, you're going to need to know what resources are available to you. And so I asked Linné to come and talk about the resources we have here at the library, and she knows better than I do on how to do a good review on a topic to make sure that you know what's already been said and you're not repeating something that's already out there in the literature. The resources that I have been drawing material from, one of the nice things is you don't have to reinvent the wheel with scientific writing. So much has already been said. Dr. Lois DeBakey and Selma DeBakey have so many publications that while they may be from decades ago, they're still just as relevant today. So I'll be handing some of those out. Also, Dr. Barbara Gastel at Texas A&M University has a lot of material she's provided. She teaches a master's degree program in science and technology journalism, and she teaches people all over the world through a volunteer effort that she initiated called Author Aid, which is a program to help researchers in developing countries to publish their work, to write better. And so she has many resources I've been able to pull from. And also these other organizations have a lot of material. So whenever it's appropriate, I'll send you links, and I'll just be sending things to you by email, and I'll also give you some handouts. So the first topic I was going to touch on is deciding what to publish. The first thing you're going to want to do is a thorough review of the literature, which you already know, and Linné will be able to touch on this more on what resources are available, the Cochrane reviews, and just how to do a good search in PubMed or whatever database that you're looking at to make sure that you are you know what's already been done. You want to see, is your topic new or unusual? Is it filling a gap? And remember that not all journals require a novel topic. That's not a requirement for every journal. You want to look at what the journal is requesting. They'll have information, a lot of information. It's kind of overwhelming in the author instructions. And you'll want to look at that. You want to remember that good writing, there's nothing magical to it. Mostly it's a matter of revision. So giving yourself enough time to revise your writing is how you get to be a good writer. So some factors you might want to consider: the quality of the work, extent of the work, how interesting will your work be to others. One tip you can do is if you can possibly give an oral presentation or a poster on your topic first. That's almost like a practice run, and it's better in many ways than writing about your topic first, because you're going to be talking to an audience and they'll ask questions and it'll spur different ideas, and you'll have time to help shape your paper on that topic. How do you all tend to do you tend to write a paper first or an abstract for a meeting first, or do you tend to do a poster on something first?
Abstracts first.
Abstracts first. Take it to a conference. Yeah. Have you ever gotten any feedback from somebody that helped you later on when you wanted to publish your work? Sometimes that can help.
It really depends on audience questions. Sometimes they point out stuff that
Right.
you haven't thought of before, you think you should incorporate it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of it as an early peer review.
I mean, if I can make a couple of comments.
Mm-hmm.
I think this slide is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But those first, I think it was the first slide that you had.
Before that?
Those first recommendations you made
Mm-hmm.
actually start at the time you have an idea for a project. Don't discover the wheel. You know, through my years, I've had a lot of fellows come in with great ideas, And we say, this may have already been done. Check it out. Because you spend a lot of resources doing something, and you find that it was published 4 years ago. So that process actually, if you're writing a review paper, that's a different story. But if you're writing an original thing, the first thing to do is before you even get embarked on the research, do that homework. It's amazing how often that homework doesn't get done. And people burn their candles in doing all kinds of research activities, and they're discovering the wheel. It's being already published. So that's my first piece of advice for that particular part. The other thing is, you're going to learn during the next few weeks a lot about writing well. But if the actual content, if the actual research study that you have is not good, doesn't matter how well you write. So again, you have to have a story to tell. Then she's going to teach you how to tell it in the best way. So the content is very important. I mean, the actual basics of the content. What's the story you're telling? What's the discovery you have made in your research? That doesn't pass muster. Doesn't matter how nicely it is written, because the reviewers are basically going to still say, this is not good enough. So those are two kind of important points to remember.
Thank you. Now I'll touch on choosing a journal. You want to decide that early on before you write the paper. Don't write your paper first and then look for a journal. Can anyone think of why that would be important?
How you write it, or the style with repeated journals.
Right, you'll be spinning your wheels. You want to write to the journal style. And every journal has a certain format of the depth they want. They'll have a page length requirement, how many words. If you have a very extensive story, some long project that you've been working on, it may not be appropriate for certain journals that have a very short page length.
The other thing is, as a reviewer, you don't want the reviewer who reviews your paper to know that this is the second or third time you send it because it's been reviewed already twice. So if you have a certain style that you put in, and when it goes to the second journal, you don't adjust to the second journal style, that reviewer is going to rapidly know that this was rejected someplace. I can tell you, as a reviewer, I can rapidly tell this is a rehash, or this is not the first time that's being submitted, because the authors are not following anything that has to do with the style of the journal. Even if you send a second, even if you get rejected and you decide then to switch it to a different journal, then look at that journal and then make sure that you rewrite it conforming to that journal. Because you don't want the reviewer to the first thing that they say, this probably was rejected somewhere else and now it's coming here.
Every journal has its own guidelines. So if you want to know how to write for a journal, you contact the journal and ask them for their guidelines.
Yeah, and later, before you leave, I'll send you a resource. I found a great website that has direct links to the author instructions for over 6,000 journals, mostly medical and scientific journals. So that means you skip a step. You don't have to go looking around on each journal website. It'll take you right to the instructions. Okay. So you also want to look for journals that have published work similar to yours. Consider journals that publish work that you cite, and obviously talk to your mentor. They'll have a good idea of what would be the appropriate journal to publish for this type of study. You want to consider the audience. What kind of audience would this material be appropriate for? What is the prestige of the journal? What is the access? In other words, what is the circulation of that journal? Is it available on PubMed? Is it widely circulated? What is the impact of the journal? What is the publication time? Maybe you need to get this out very quickly for one reason or another, and timing is very important. That could affect which journal you submit to. Likelihood of acceptance, obviously you want to take that into consideration. And I already touched on journal page limitations. what kind of a story do you have? So I'm going to talk a bit about impact factor because it's a bit controversial, but everybody focuses on impact factor for when they're looking at journals, even though everybody says they don't like impact factor and we need a better system. The impact factor, it appears in the journal citation reports. It's associated with Thomson Reuters. It's a measure of how much the articles in a journal tend to be cited. It's the average number of times that articles published in the journal in the past 2 years have been cited in a given year. So it's an average. And there's also a 5-year impact factor as well. So in general, the journals with the high impact factors tend to be more prestigious. There are a lot of limitations to the impact factor. It doesn't tell you how many times a specific article was cited, and it's an average, not a median, so it mostly skews heavily towards a few big papers within a journal. And it also reflects only citations in some journals. Not every journal has impact factor calculated. It doesn't reflect older citations, and it's not valid at all for comparing journals in different fields. There's a lot of controversy on how journals and authors game the system with impact factor. There are reports of citation rings, people who cite their friend's work multiple times so that they can bring up the number of citations and raise impact factor. So that's been reported. But the one I'm going to talk about is how the impact factor window affects, can have a negative impact on both the journal and on authors. So basically, when a journal article is published, typically it takes a few years for it to reach the peak number of citations. So let's say by year 2, a specific article has 7 citations, but maybe by year 3 or after year 3 it has 10 citations. That's when it reaches a peak. Well, the impact factor is calculated on that second year number. And so what happens a lot of times, in especially the larger journals where a small percentage increase can have a rather large effect on their impact factor, is the editors will shift the publication date of a paper back a month. Like, let's say there's an article that should be published in December, the December issue. They'll move it to the January issue, which delays the publication timeline for the author, which is a negative. But the reason they're doing that is, if it's published early in the year, it's going to have more time to collect those citations. The articles published at the beginning of the year tend to perform better. And so that can help boost the impact factor of a journal up a little bit. Other disadvantages, so that can be very hard on the authors because this front loading could affect your funding, your promotion, tenure. But it's a disadvantage for journals as well because poorly promoted journals who aren't out there on social media promoting buzzwords about new articles that are coming out, they are not getting all the buzz. They get fewer citations. It's also a disadvantage, in that it doesn't give a journal a benefit for choosing to publish articles that stand the test of time. Other types of impact that are not included in the impact factor are the article's effect on policy, the influence of the article on professional or other guidelines, effect on practice. It doesn't mention coverage in the media. It doesn't measure inclusion in teaching. So those are other things that are ignored. So I'll talk about, very briefly, alternatives to impact factor. This has been a controversy for years. There have been multiple alternatives suggested. The one that seems to be very popular right now is altmetrics, which is very modern. It can only really work for articles published in the year 2011 to now. And it measures the attention of the article that it's received in social media, like tweets, and the source of the citation. So a citation in or a mention of an article in a newspaper would count more than if it were mentioned in a blog or in a tweet. And the type of author that mentioned that article. So if a doctor posts something on their blog and then sends it out to other doctors, that would count more, have a higher weight than if, say, the journal posted something and tweeted it out. Okay, so that's altmetrics. The Hirsch index I actually learned about from Linné, and I had to do my research on how that works. But it's a measure. It focuses more on the author, and it's a measure of the productivity and impact of an author, and it's calculated live each time you look it up in Scopus. And then there's the eigenfactor, which I still don't fully understand. I hear it batted around a bit, but I don't like when I don't understand how something is calculated. But it's supposed to be a measure of a journal's influence, and it's based on information from Thomson Reuters. They rank the journals according to the number of incoming citations.
So these are two competitive products, is why Scopus does one thing, does exactly the same thing as Thomson Reuters, but a different company. So they're both calculating impact factors and Hirsch index. And basically, the Hirsch index, both Scopus and Web of Science, which is the Thomson Reuters product, does the same thing. It's a matrix of the number of citations that or impact factor of a particular journal and the matrix of the number of times your work as an author has been cited. So those things together are your H index or your Hirsch index. So it's how, significant you are as an author based on the number of citations that you have and the number of times those are cited and the impact factor of the journal. So that matrix makes up the Hirsch index and the eigenfactor for a different company.
All right, so that's an overview of impact factor, which seems to be the thing that most people look at when they're looking at which journal to target. And now we're going to switch gears briefly and have a quick pop quiz. Who is this? Does anyone recognize her? You probably won't, and that's okay. Nope. Cheryl Iverson. She's the chair of the committee for the AMA Manual of Style, so now you know who to blame. No, she's kind of a rock star to the science writers. She has been involved in creating all these guidelines, and she's very active in education of science writers as well. But just thought I'd throw that out there because a lot of times people write these books and nobody really thinks about who's the person behind it. Okay, so a quick talk about establishing the mindset for beginning to write. Robert Day said that the preparation of a scientific paper has less to do with literary skill than with organization. And I do agree with that. If you can't organize your work into a good story, you're not going to be able to communicate it well, and nobody's going to be interested, so you won't reach the audience. Remember that you're trying to communicate, not to impress. And also realize that the readers want you to do well. It seems like the journal editors and the peer reviewers are your enemies, but they're not. Dr. Winters often says that every time a manuscript goes through peer review for our journal, it comes out better. So those revisions, they make a difference. You can use published items as models. It's perfectly fine to follow the format of a well-written article that you find. I already talked about get those author instructions early and use them. Follow a style manual. Whatever the journal author instructions tell you to follow, a lot of them it's the AMA style. Follow that. Many journals will have kind of a hybrid. They'll have their own bit of style layered onto the AMA style. So they'll tell you where you need to deviate from AMA. And just jot things down. I never think well at my desk. I think better when I'm taking a walk. So whatever works for you, jot your comments down and gather your information as you're preparing to write. You also, this is a great resource. I'm going to be emailing all of you a list of links and resources that are very helpful. But this group, the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, it's actually a closed group. It's invitation only. They invite certain journals that they feel have something new to contribute. But what they provide is guidelines on ethics, guidelines on how to prepare manuscripts, and these are standard guidelines for all people writing medical articles. They have a wonderful series on preparing manuscripts.
This is the Bible. That's the Bible.
Okay, so I'm going to do a very quick little exercise if we can do it. Let's see.
I don't think we're going to have time
You don't
for
think
the other.
Well, do you want to?
No.
We can skip the
No, no.
exercise and do
Totally
yours,
up to
'cause
you,
yours
but I'm
is
just
more
saying,
important.
I'm going to try to get an hour-long talk into 20
Oh
minutes.
no! Tell you what, let's do this for the next one. That's
Or
why.
you just go ahead and we can do mine the next time.
No, let's do this. I want to do yours next. So a couple resources, and I'm going to hand out some handouts as well before you all leave. But a couple of resources I wanted to point out, and these are things that I will email to you. This is the one I mentioned with the links to all the author instructions. It's great. It's just alphabetical listing of all the different journals, and it links you directly to the author instructions. And for designing conference posters, is anyone familiar with Colin Purrington's site? It's really nice. He writes a blog. It's on all different topics, but the one that his section on designing conference posters is very, very good. And so I'll send you that link as well. And just a brief overview of the resources that I use to pull all of this together. Scholarly Kitchen website, Author Aid from Dr. Barbara Gastel, and the American Medical Writers Association. I will finish with a quick overview of what I'm going to hand out, and I won't hand it out until the end of the class, but I just want to introduce what I'm going to hand out. This is it's a quick reference guide, grammar, basic usage. It's a cheat sheet, and I find it very useful. This is from the American Medical Writers Association, and this is an article that Dr. Lois DeBakey wrote, and I thought it was very good. I love seeing her style of writing, and also she has a great section in here about cliches to avoid. And it's a long list of cliches that we see all the time in medical writing, and these are things that you should avoid. So,
Okay.
and I will pass it over to Renee.
Except I can't get to it. Let's see. Because the mouse is not talking to the...
There it is.
There it is. She said.
There it is.
Is that it? Slideshow.
Yeah. Oh, that's just the notes. I can ask the AV people, but you want to click that to get it on the slide. No,
While they're doing that, one of
Oh, there it is.
there you go.
Lois and Becky,
So the
she has
video
many
part
favorite
is
words,
right
but one of
kind of
them
this corner
is
over
called
here.
logorrhea. Any of you know what logorrhea means? It means endless discussion, endless words about the same topic. Verbal diarrhea, basically.
Oh, that's a screen. All right, I'm going to talk really fast. We don't have much of an introduction at Methodist when you come to library materials. They're hard to find, and I find a lot of people still go to the TMC library link. At the bottom right of the intranet is the HM Library Resources link. That's how you get to the library. And when you do, it opens up a page that looks like this. A to Z, electronic books and journals, that's the catalog. Okay? And then all of the resources are down the center section are all divided by the focus. So at the top, clinical point of care, I know we're supposed to talk about writing, but I'm going to do my plug for clinical point of care tools. A lot of these have mobile devices. They're fabulous. You spend a whole lot of money on UpToDate and Dynamed and Clinical Key. They're excellent. So all of those have mobile apps. So if you go to the loading page, it'll tell you about call me, I'll tell you all about them. Dynamed, which I prefer to UpToDate, is getting ready to do a giant facelift end of July. It's going to look 10 times better, and all the things you love about UpToDate, Dynamed's doing. And so take a look at those. There's the rest of the focus. You went from clinical point of care to nursing to pharmacology, micromedics, Lexicomp, clinical pharmacology, the gold standard, and alternative medicine stuff here and natural standard. Lots of apps there too. They've got stuff for your phone and your device. Here's the research medicine stuff. All of these. It's where you'll probably spend most of your time, and the psych stuff, the business health stuff. If you're ever doing stuff that talks about money, Health Business Elite, great product. Talks about the cost of things, one device cost over another device, cost of length of stay, that kind of stuff. So anything Harvard Business Review is in there. All the hospital admin journals live in there. EBSCO portal, down here it shows you all the EBSCO databases that we have. It opens up a page that looks like that, so it's an easy access. The EBSCO is a publishing group that produces a lot of great online databases. And the nice thing about the EBSCO databases is you can search more than one of them at the same time. So if you're in Medline Complete and you want to add a business component, you can search Health Business Elite at the same time. If you want to do, if you've got a stroke patient and you want to do Rehab Reference Center at the same time and talk about rehab stuff, it allows you to do multiple things at the same time. There's the nursing section. Pharmacy, let's see what else. I'm skipping. Okay, so you probably want to spend most of your time here in the research medicine section. As you can see, we have Medline in many different ways. Also Cochrane, the granddaddy of evidence-based medicine. Just of the 6 Cochrane databases, I'll just draw your attention to systematic reviews and controlled trials. There's also methodology. All of those are great resources. Bringing you back to don't reinvent the wheel that Dr. Quinones said. Basically, look here first. If it's already been done, you won't be wasting your time. Or if you're looking at a systematic review, you might look for it in the Cochrane database first because it's a finite period of time. If you're looking for something really current, maybe the review was done 5 years ago and you want to do 5 years to the current date, but that's a good place to start.
So these databases are actually better than PubMed. Somebody's trying to do that. Which one do you then recommend?
I love the Cochrane databases. I use the systematic reviews, control trials a lot.
What's the year span that those 751 from now back to when? Or
Well, the database sort of came into existence about 10 years ago. Okay. So people started doing them. The other thing is if you're going to do a systematic review, Cochrane has guidelines. if you want to, do one, get it published. This is a great place for it to be published. There's already, over 700,000 of them. But Cochrane has great guidelines to do reviews. Here's more. They have technology assessment, methodology register, economic eval. Those are the 4 other Cochrane databases. IEEE is an engineering database. So if you're working on a prosthesis, or you want to know about range of motion or devices, there's a lot of stuff in IEEE. What we talked about, Web of Knowledge. Web of Knowledge is basically the old Science Citation Index, those big fat books where you look to see how many times you're cited or who cited what. That's the Thomson Reuters product that we just talked about. There's a competitive product called Scopus. We have that also. There's Medline. We have Medline 4 different ways. A really bad version in Web of Science. But basically, as you know, the Medline database is PubMed in its purest form. It's its free version. It's your tax dollars at work. So here's this giant database of all things medical. These other people take that database, pretty it up, make it more user-friendly, add full text to it, and then sell it back to us for a lot of money. So these other options have the full text living in the database. It's embedded in the database. Medline has no full text. PubMed has no full text. The only way you're going to get to those full text articles is if you're in the library site and it's talking to the collection. So then it will take you out through a link resolver and pull the articles from the collection. So remember that. When you can get to Medline or PubMed from like grandma's house. But you can't get to the full text unless you're logged into Methodist. Okay, there's the A to Z list. That's the catalog. That's what it opens up when you look. It's catalog of all the books and journals. We have 9,000 of them. Has a search by keyword. It allows you to truncate. If you put ortho, you'll get ortho, or orthop, you'll get orthopedic, orthopodic. Okay. So all you have to do, ORTHOP, and then a little asterisk, patents. I think I have a slide, but basically, if I put the keyword arthroplasty in here, it gives me all the things that have arthroplasty in the title. So these are books. See, it says resource type book. It goes through the whole list. They're all books, except that last one was Journal of Arthroplasty. It tells you which database it lives in. Tells you the years that we own it. So all the books are you're able to read full text. Advanced search, I always stick to the basic myself. I think less is more. The more you type, the more mistakes you make. So my default's always the basic search. Index, it just shows you what journals are kept in all of these different products. So it's a good place to look to see what journals actually live in those databases. There's a lot of duplication in library collections, but it's because we buy packages. So you might see Lancet 4 different ways. It's because it lives in 4 different databases. I just happened to click on Access Surgery, so you can see all the things that live in Access Surgery. eBooks, there's an ebook list. The problem with the list is that, titles of books change all the time. It used to be Principles of Internal Medicine, and it was Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine, and then it's, they change as the editors change or titles change. It used to be Principles of Neurology, and then it was Victor's, and now it's Adams and Victor's. So unless you're not going to find it in this alphabetical list, you'd be better off going to that little search box in the A to Z list and search for books only, and then put neurology, and you'll get the list of everything that has neurology in it. Discovery search is like a Google box. It's designed for like brainless searching. You can put any topic in here and it'll regurgitate. I think I used gestational diabetes, gave me 132,000 hits. That's way too many for a real search. But if you just want a general overview of something, it's a good place to start. These filters over on this side, just a reminder that the date on the left is the date of the first article. So if you don't want 1902, you can change that to 2010, and then you'll get the last 5 years, and it'll make your search much smaller. Here's just, it shows you, it breaks it down to academic journals, magazines, books, review articles, like that. Those are the filters. There's also a link to PubMed when you're in the A to Z list, or also on that front loading page where it said research and medicine, there's a PubMed link. If you go to PubMed there, you know you're talking to the collection. You'll know you'll be able to get to the full text. The articles will be talking to the catalog. This is the gem I'm sharing. Citation search in the A to Z list. If you know the PubMed ID number, that's all you have to put in this little form. So if you have a PubMed ID number, you put it right there. You click submit. Takes you to the citation with nothing more than the PubMed ID number. It tells you where it is. It's at Science Direct. You click that, takes you to the publisher page. There's a PDF. Okay? For one that we don't have, looks like this. It takes you to this. There's a little hint here that, see the brackets? It tells you that it's a foreign language journal. If the title's in a bracket, it isn't in English. So it tells you it's this German orthopedic journal. What happens is if you request this through interlibrary loan, it opens up that form on the right. It auto-filled the bottom. You didn't have to type a thing. All you have to do is give us your name. Address is just a department, and your email, and click submit. It comes to us. We find it for you and email it to you the next day or two.
So this searches it in every database that is available to us. If you put that citation, if you put that PubMed number.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because if you have the PubMed ID number, I mean that's kind of like the universal number. If we have it, it will search every one of the bundled packages that we have and find it. Interlibrary loan form, there's also one on that A to Z list. If you like typing, use that one. If you don't like typing, use citation search. Oop, did I go backwards? Yes. Okay, there's also a link to an interlibrary loan form on the front page. The only time I think you would ever use that is if you were ordering like a chapter from a book that doesn't have a PubMed ID. If you wanted something from a book, we would use that. There's a loading page for the EBSCO databases. If you learn to search one, you can search them all. They search exactly the same way. These have the embedded full text. That's just a reminder. If you need an article fast and and it's mostly clinical, a lot of the clinical stuff lives in Medline Complete. Excuse me, I'm choking. All of these databases loading require or work better if you use Boolean logic, right? So they're not designed, these search engines are not designed for like stream of consciousness stuff, like that discovery little search box, the Google box was. They're actually looking for you to choose the right subject heading. So here they are, Boolean operators, just reminding you that's how you create relationships between ideas, are the ands, the ors, and the nots. And it also, the parentheses, where you group things together. This is a whole class, but one narrows, one broadens, and one kicks out. The bad thing with kicking out, and I never suggest anybody using not until you're like a super searcher, because if you're looking at review articles and you say, like, let's say diabetes, not juvenile, then you might kick out like the perfect article because the focus of it may be gestational and juvenile. So if you say not, it will kick out that really fabulous article because you've chosen to deselect it. So here's how that's what it looks like. That's the little intersection of things you get when you use and, ors you're getting everything, nots you're kicking out something. Okay, and this is a reminder that when you use parentheses, the way that the search engine processes is what's in the brackets first, just like algebra. So brackets, and then it combines those ideas together. So mouse or mice, gene or pseudogene, and then you add those ideas together. Truncation, reminder, we talked about orthop, patents, patentable, whatever, using the little asterisk. Okay, so here's just a general search statement. I use Dr. Zhang, his last name, his first initial, and what he writes on gold nanoparticles. Gold nanoparticles being the subject, right? So we put those ideas together. That search yielded 51 hits. The number here, 2008, that's the first article that he wrote on gold nanoparticles. So if I only want the last 2 or 3 years, I change that date. It makes it much smaller. It shows me down here they're all academic peer-reviewed journals. So use your filters. This is what it looks like when you click the 51. It just gives you a nice citation, a list. If you choose any of these to keep, there's the link source. Sometimes it looks like a big M, but sometimes it looks like a LS for link source. That's the operational software that takes you from the citation to the collection. If it doesn't live in the database, then the link resolver is taking you out to talk to the articles that we have. So if they're keepers, you just click this add to folder and you're saving them.
Where does this folder go?
The folder goes, what do you mean, where does it go?
Because when we try to save it, it gets lost in space.
Okay, well the first order of business is you have to log in. You have to create an account for yourself. If you're not logged in as yourself, it goes away. So if you're doing all this great searching for this great paper that you're writing and you're not logged in and you walk away, pizza man comes, you time out and you're gone. PubMed does the same thing. So unless you log in and create an account for yourself, it's not going to save anything.
So the folder is saved online, not on. You cannot save it on your desktop. That's what I meant.
It goes to the cloud. It saves at the cloud. Mm-hmm. You can email it to yourself, or you can save it as a file, and I'll show you that in a second. So anyway, the keepers you add to a folder. The folder view hangs up on the right at the top. It looks like that. So as you're saving stuff, you can always go back and see what's in your folder at any time. There's your folder contents. Okay? At the end of the folder contents, it's going to say, what do you want to do with this stuff? Do you want to email it to yourself? Do you want to save it as a file? Or do you want to export it to your bibliographic management software? There's RefWorks. That's what Methodists chose RefWorks. I know a lot of you like EndNote. We're working on EndNote licensing also because it has direct export to EndNote here. I'm trying to talk them into a EndNote subscription for the institution, but I haven't gotten very far yet. So I choose RefWorks. It goes to my RefWorks account. If you don't have one, it gives you the opportunity to sign up for a new account. If you do have one, all you have to do is put your stuff in. It opens it up. See at the top, hello Linné, it knows me. There's the stuff I just sent to it is right here. I have folders over on the other side. You have a Winters folder at the bottom for things I do for Dr. Winters. So everything goes there and I save it over there. When you get ready to do your bibliography, there's a button that says Create Bibliography, okay? It lets you choose the style, AMA, Harvard, Turabian, whatever you like. There's I think there's 900 choices. Create Bibliography, takes 5 seconds, there it is. The one thing as a reminder that these programs do not do, they do not capitalize proper names. So if it's the Irish Medical Society, Irish won't be capitalized in the title of your citation. You have to go back and do that yourself. You can create folders, name your folder, old nanoparticles. There it is. And there it lives on the right side with the rest of my folders. Okay, so these are my golden rules for better search outcomes. Give yourself a username and password for every database that you search. Don't make it your Methodist one because that changes every 180 days. Make it the same so you remember your name, the dog's name, something like that. Always log in before you search because you'll time out or you'll lose your information. Use your folders to store those citations and then your bibliographic management software. If all else fails, you can call. We're there all the time. Bob Bartlett's the other librarian. And that's it. That was fast, wasn't it?
That was amazing.
I know, I feel like I was like, so call us anytime. You know, the library's on the first floor of the main building between the valet parking and the emergency room. It has a vacuum lock.
If you elect to write anything for our own journal, just know that it is indexed on Medline, PubMed, and EBSCO. So you're covered in all. And it's important if you're going to write to, because that's how you as your bibliography, and it's important.
And if you get stuck on, you know, creating your search statement or your, you know, putting the right words together, we're here there to help you do that too. Making sure that you're getting, you know, the maximum.
Can you send us your presentation?
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll send it to
really
Susan.
Helpful. Thank you, Renee.
Sure.
What's next time?
Next time is next Wednesday, same time at noon. So that's July 15th, and we'll be going more in depth. This will be Writing Well 2, going more in depth on the format of different types of manuscripts, case reports, abstracts, review articles, and also talking about authorship and how important it is to determine that early on in the process. Okay, and I'm going to put the handouts at the end of the table there so you can just grab before you head out. Upcoming sessions later next month, we're going to have a panel discussion with peer reviewers and editors who will tell you what is the kiss of death and what they like and don't like to see in a manuscript. There you go. Thank you very much.